All right. Let's wait for my computer to pick up the live stream. Make sure we're really going here. There we go. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my third Patreon live stream. You'll notice that I am still on my Shorts channel. Thanks to all of you who did subscribe to my new Nighthawk and Light Extra channel. I went to go make my live stream on that today and ran into a bit of an issue with, well, apparently 50 subscribers is not the only threshold that YouTube has. I went to make the live stream and it said I would be limited to 25 simultaneous viewers, and once the stream ended, it would go private. And in order to unlock all the features, I would need to have 1,000 subscribers. So I don't know what I'll do there. I'm going to have to post an actual video to that channel maybe and have that show up on a community post or something on my actual main channel. I am noticing that my the image is kind of blown out because of this dark background here. Let me roll this up. That is the trouble with using my phone. That's the trouble with using my phone for a live stream, is that I'm using auto exposure, and with a dark background like this, it can really make me look brighter than I need to be here. So let's just get this out of the way. You guys get to see me fall off a ladder live, so that'll be fun. Whoa. All right. There we go. There, that's a nicer image. Oh yeah, welcome everyone here. How many viewers we have? We got 3 right now. Yeah, thanks for joining me. I finished with the PCM video, the phase change material video, if you guys were here for my previous streams, and I've handed that off to my new editor. So hopefully that goes well. This will be his first try editing one of my videos, and I'm excited to see if he can do a good enough job to be able to take that out of my hands, that part of the process. And it was a pretty good feeling to finish filming a video and be able to just hand all that over and get to thinking about whatever I'm going to do for my next project without having to think about potentially editing for the next 2 weeks. So I'm going to be back to the radiative cooling project today, and to start with, what I think I'm going to do is do some more experiments with radiative cooling fabric, and I'm going to try to, this time, instead of treating fabric, I used calcium carbonate in an earlier video to try to grow microspheres onto threads of cotton. I'm going to actually try to make my own fibers out of my radiative cooling material that I've already developed. And in that way, while I already know that the material itself works for radiative cooling in a paint form, and it's primarily acrylic, and there's a lot of, one of the first synthetic materials that was used for clothing was acrylic, so it should work fine. Let me turn on another light here. Yeah, so what I'm going to do today is try to make some acrylic radiative cooling fabric. So what I'm going to do is, this is some acrylic that is partially dissolved in acetone that has been sitting on my shelf since my last radiative cooling video. Actually, not even my last one. This is like from the video I did 8 months ago. And so I had this covered in foil, and well, most of the acetone evaporated out of it. So we end up with this really thick acrylic goo in the bottom that I need to redilute with some more acetone to begin with the experiment. So this is, usually I would make a mark on the edge of the beaker to tell me how much acetone this started with. because I like to dilute it to a consistent amount so that I actually know how much acrylic per acetone is in this mixture, and I can actually make some known ratios out of that. My paint for my radiative cooling series, generally I've stuck with like a 10 milliliters of acetone for 1 gram of acrylic, and unfortunately I don't see any mark on this container to tell me what it started at. So I'm going to shoot for like 800 or 900 milliliters, and then we are going to try some experiments with this and hope that the dilution ratio is close enough that I'll be able to figure out where I ended up at, if I actually get a working result here. I got a question: how much material do I usually edit down for a video? Usually I'll edit something like 10 hours of footage down to a half-hour long video, something like that. And I'm not a very quick editor, and so I'm probably a perfectionist over issues that I really should not be, that most of you don't care about while you're watching, but I care about while I'm editing. And so it takes me like a week and a half probably to edit one of my videos. And I'm hoping that a professional editor is going to be able to cut that down to just a couple of days maybe. I'm going to need a longer stir rod than this. Uh-oh, might have to go in the other room to grab a longer stir bar. Yeah, let's do that. So, well, we'll let that sit for a minute, and I'll explain what I'm kind of planning to do for the next project. So we just finished with the PCM material, the phase change material, in the earlier live streams that I was playing with, and the purpose of that video was to make in part to make my radiative coolings more immediately effective in their current state, to be able to cool down some other material that you could carry with you and keep you cool on your person. The PCM packs stay around 65 Fahrenheit, 18 degrees Celsius, and so it's kind of a cold pack that just lasts hours and hours longer than ordinary ice. And being that it has a freezing point that's fairly high at that 18 degrees Celsius, 65 F, it means that using radiative sky cooling, the nighttime temperatures almost anywhere in the world, if paired with a little bit of extra boost from a radiative cooling surface, can reach a temperature cold enough to freeze those ice packs. And so they're a material that you can actually, something like an ice pack that you can, recharge and then carry with you to keep you cool. Well, it's like an ice pack that you don't actually need electricity in order to charge up. And so for that reason, it pairs really nicely with a radiative cooling surface. But yeah, in this project, so what I was thinking of doing with taking this acrylic mixture off the shelf, previously what I've done, you mix this acrylic and acetone mixture with a little bit of water. And then when you spread this onto a surface, the acetone evaporates first and you get this solid layer of acrylic. But because I mix water into this, the water is mixed with that acrylic as well, and that evaporates later, leaving a bunch of little pockets in that acrylic layer. And those little pockets cause really high refraction inside of the material, meaning that it becomes super reflective. So we get an ultra white surface because of all these little air pockets left behind from evaporating water. Now, what I was thinking was trying to turn this into a fiber using several different methods. The easiest that I was thinking was to use something like a cotton candy machine. Literally just throw this into a cotton candy machine, probably without heat, because it uses a quick evaporating solvent, and so you don't actually need heat to melt it. It'll be in a liquid state anyway because of being mixed with acetone. And then you get the cotton candy machine up to speed, and it starts throwing out fibers of this stuff, which I'm hoping will still have those little tiny pockets in them of water droplets. And when they dry, the fibers will become super, super white. And then we can just spin that into ordinary yarn or thread and make clothing out of it. Or maybe even more simply, you could just kind of mat it together like felt and like iron it into a flat sheet, maybe use a little bit of adhesive or something in order to like form it into a solid layer. And in that way, get like a really flexible radiative cooling surface. The other option is electrospinning. Electrospinning is something that I was thinking of trying in this video. So what you do for that, you take let me see if I can play a video for you. Let me see if I can play this video for you, like just holding this up to my camera. I could really use a setup where I can show you multiple screens and stuff. So this is a video from the channel Riley's Lab. And this video did not come to mind right away as I was thinking over this project. And then I was like looking up how to make different threads out of acrylic and realized that electrospinning is something that I had seen recently. And it was in this video. This guy makes a synthetic heart valve by electrospinning. So watch what you get, like these. It's a little hard to see. So he's squirting this solvated plastic, a different kind of plastic that's dissolved in acetone through a syringe, and he's spraying it at an electrically charged surface. And so what happens is that the needle that the solvent is coming out of is charged with one polarity, positive or negative, I don't know which. And then the surface that it's slamming up against is charged with the other. And so you have the fluid attracted to your secondary surface by this charge. But in addition to that attraction, which pulls the plastic toward it, you also have like high charge in the fluid itself, which causes the jet of fluid, which is coming out of something like a syringe, it causes that jet to be like repelled from itself. And so you end up with the steady stream coming out of the syringe splitting into a billion different nanothreads before they contact the surface. So that's what I thought we would try in this video, because I happen to have a high voltage DC power source, which is what you need for electrospinning. This, unfortunately, is not variable. So if it doesn't work in the state it's in, I can't adjust it. So that's going to be the downside. I had an electrostatic filter in the furnace in my house, and I pulled out the power supply because I figured it would be more useful for purposes out here in the workshop than it is doing minimal filtration in my house that can be done with just a cotton filter. So we have like some electronics in here. We got a transformer over here, and then we have a high voltage. Actually, I have no idea how this works, because this is the important part of this is that it outputs high voltage DC without pulsing it. A lot of high voltage DC power supplies, which you can get, like if you've seen my earlier static electricity generator videos, those are like high frequency pulsed DC. So the signal cuts on and then cuts off and on and off. It's a lot harder to get a high voltage DC source that's just flat, just constant. And that's what you need in order to do a lot of clever physics experiments. So this actually, for the purpose that it was doing when I pulled this out of my furnace, it was charging up dust particles as they passed through a steel mesh or an aluminum mesh. And then as they pass by oppositely charged plates, they're attracted to the plates and slam up against them, kind of like I forget what the name of those trendy air filters that were advertised everywhere on TV in the early 2000s. Like, were they Dyson? Like Dyson air filters that they attracted all the dust to a plate, and they always showed them just wiping it off with a rag or whatever. It's like the same kind of high voltage power supply that would be in one of those. Yeah, someone commented, "Oh, how does the solvent evaporate so quickly when electrospinning?" Yeah, it's because it has a lot of surface area. And in the case of acetone is one of the fastest evaporating solvents that there is. And that's actually what makes it so hard to, if you saw Tech Ingredients video, the other science channel that has done a video about radiative cooling, he talks about using acetone as the solvent in his paint mixtures and how he was unable to apply that with a spray gun because it gets stringy and it it just comes out of the spray gun in globs and strings. Actually, that was another thing I might try to turn this into fibers. The electrospinning cone in the video I showed is really inconsistent, which is usually a pump problem. Yeah, I mean, it is a little inconsistent in that video, but if you actually watch the full video, he does improve. It gets quite improved by the end of the video. He uses his hand at first to press the syringe in, which is what I'm going to try today. And then later on, he switches to like a 3D printed mechanical screw drive to drive the syringe in. I need to walk out of the room and get a longer stir rod for my solution here. Let's see, do I turn you guys around? Let's take you with me. See some of the rest of my messy workshop. Oh man, I clean this place up in between every video, and I just work in such a hectic way that it never stays clean. Here's my cabinet with all my lab stuff in here. Where did I put my glass stir bars? Right here. Got them. All right. There we go. I have my my fume hood tube down today because shooting a bunch of acrylic and solvent out of a syringe and then expecting it to divide into a bunch of little nanofibers is something that would be probably good to to actively vent out of my workshop. So got that out today. Usually this acrylic mixture takes several days to fully dissolve from its original state as plexiglass, but it really only takes a few minutes once it's been dissolved once, and it's already kind of just a goo at the bottom of the container. So hopefully this will go into solution fairly rapidly. Yeah, one thing I might do if this process works with the nano spinning and I get a fairly half decent result, I actually might talk to the Riley's lab guy and see if he wants to do a collaboration and spin his own fibers from this material. Actually, the reason why I'm choosing to do electrospinning is because I have this high voltage power supply like ready to go, and it looks like a fairly easy process to accomplish. Because otherwise, it's not really the ideal method to use for fibers for clothing. You know, you don't need nanofibers for ordinary clothing. But I thought it would be a fun thing to try today on the live stream, so that's what we're going to do. And I think this acrylic is pretty well fully dissolved. And because I have no idea what level this was at before, we're going to have to do some trial and error with the mixture that I make out of it. Let me get another beaker here. What was it, 400 mil? Let's get a 250 mil. And some foil. All right. Let's convert this syringe into an acetone syringe, unless I have one right here. We'll call this my new acetone syringe. All right. I'd be interested in hearing what you guys would like to see me do with these live streams. If you have any other suggestions for what you would like these streams to turn into. So far, I have been basically just turning on the camera when I'm working on a project, because then this is some experiments that I was going to need to do anyway before figuring I need to do these tests in order to figure out if my next video idea is going to be viable. But there are other options. We could just go sit out in the backyard, and I could show you the groundhogs that are trying to dig under my workshop here. All right, this is my new acrylic syringe. Okay, here we go. We will make 100 mils of the acetone water mixture. Hopefully what we end up with here is about 1 gram of acrylic per 10 milliliters of solution here, because that's kind of what I'm counting on for my water ratio to be accurate. You know what, maybe we should do, yeah, I guess 100 mils is fine. All right. Was that shoot, was that five syringes full? I'm not sure. I'll just follow the 100 mil line on my beaker here. All right. Call that 100 mils. Okay, good. Glad you guys enjoy the behind the scenes so far. This is the easiest way to do a live stream, because this is what I'd be doing out here anyway, so I may as well take you along. What I'm probably going to do in the next week or so also is I'm going to post the earlier, at least the previous 2 live streams to the new channel that I asked a bunch of you to subscribe to, the Nighthawk and Light Extra channel. And then I'll post those publicly, and then send some of my regular subscribers over there to hopefully push that channel up to 1,000 subscribers, so that I unlock the full live streaming capability and can run that channel at full capacity. I might, there's one video I was working on. I don't need to show you. I don't know where I put the thing anyway, but I attempted to propagate morel mushrooms. Kind of a spur of the moment thing. There was this, I follow this mycology page on Reddit, and some guy was posting about how he successfully propagated morel mushrooms. If you don't know what those are, it's a very sought after edible mushroom that grows natively in my yard. Actually, I usually get 10 or 15 morels growing in my yard every year, and I had one that I had not picked when I saw this post, and I decided to try growing them on a petri dish. And morels are known to be just about the hardest mushroom to try to grow yourself, if not the hardest. And this was my first ever attempt at trying to do anything in the realm of a biology sort of experiment like that, of any kind, let alone mushroom propagation. And so it turned out just about as you would expect. I did not succeed in propagating the world's most difficult to propagate mushroom on my first attempt, believe it or not. But maybe I'll make that a little failure video that goes up on the Nighthawk and Light Extra page. All right, I actually need to pull up my old video here to see how much water I need to add to this. How much water I need to add to this solution in order to reach the proper ratio. Is my notepad out here? I might have my notepad out here somewhere, which has my notes from the earlier project. Sorry to walk off camera, everyone. I'll be right back here, just looking around. All right. So a lot of these on here are the notes from my actually figuring out how to make the calcium carbonate nanospheres, first of all. And then let's see. Yeah, these are all nanosphere and microsphere notes. Shoot. Nope, this is not where I wrote down the this is not where I wrote down my nanosphere or my paint recipe. So let me look at that here. Pull up my own video. This is I often get emails asking about how to do, like, asking me to explain more information than my videos include. Like someone saying, okay, you made this paint, how do I make it more durable? And I'm like, if I knew that, it would have been in the video. And often they'll ask me to rehash stuff that I talk about in the video, and I'm like, I need to re-reference my own video myself in order to actually remember what I talked about. All right, making the pigment. Liquid base. How do I do this? For every 110 milliliters of acetone, we add 12 milliliters of water. So I need another 10 mils of acetone and then 12 of water. So this will be my water syringe, water and acetone. And we'll start with the acetone here. I'm going to use a little more than 10 mils of acetone, because the more you use, the less time it takes for the water to integrate with this acrylic mixture. Because the issue is that when you pour water into the mixture of acrylic and acetone, it causes the acrylic to crash out of solution. So I said 12 milliliters of water. So yeah, it's a significant amount of water there. A significant amount of water to try to add to this beaker. Maybe I'll start with not quite all of this solution, because who knows how much water this absorbed while it was sitting on the shelf for the last 8 months. All right. I'm going to have to treat this kind of like I did when I was coming up with this recipe, which is just add this a little at a time and test and see if the coating turns white when you actually spread it on a surface. And if it doesn't, add a little more water. If it does, well, then you're good to go. We're able to see that, see how many clumps and things got in there. So now the game is to just stir this for however long it takes for those clumps to go away, where that acrylic crashed out of solution. Let me do that with a popsicle stick so it's not so noisy of glass on glass. Set this here. And I'll just crush these little pieces, kind of force the water that gets encased in the center of these acrylic bits to distribute. That'll cause it to dissolve faster. Let me turn on Let me know if when I turn this on, if it's too noisy. All right. Can you guys hear that even when the fan is on? I'm not sure how well either my phone or YouTube cuts the noise out. Not noisy at all. Awesome. That's great. Let me put set this down for a second. I made a a little bit of a guide for the vapors. Bottom of an old garbage can. Now I can just stir this under here without getting all the acrylic vapors in my face. Hopefully this wasn't a bad decision to do this part on the live stream. Hopefully these clumps dissolve fairly quickly. You can tell that I'm somewhere in the ballpark of being having a good result already, because look at up on the edges of the glass, it's turning white where it's spread. That's that snow scattering effect. The question will be when I get to doing the actual electro spinning of this, if it matters what the viscosity of the liquid is, because this is fairly thin, and I can let it evaporate down quite a bit in order to increase the viscosity if that's what's needed. And then whoever asked earlier about how the acetone evaporates so quickly with electrospinning, that it might help if I do end up having an issue with that to let this evaporate a little bit first and get rid of the excess acetone before we try to spin it. And if not, I can like add a heat gun or something like that to blast hot dry air around those threads and see if that helps. All right, the water isn't fully dissolved yet, but I think I want to give this a test. I'll just leave that in there. So, what do we think? What size needle should we use to try electrospinning? I guess very small, or I have no idea. Let's try, I don't know even. I'll try like the most medium of my needles. The most medium of what I have. And we'll try this syringe here. And we're gonna need to attach the leads of my power supply. Gonna have to attach these somehow to the needle, and then to a piece of foil to see if we can get this to work. So, leave that under the fume hood here. I have this power supply set up to have these little, you can't see them. They're like the little flat connector things. But I don't have any ready to go of the other polarity that I could actually attach these to. So I think what I'll do is I'll just tape these. This is positive here. Positive to the needle maybe for electrospinning, I'm not sure. So let me suck up some of this acrylic before I go messing around with a live power supply. Start with just like 2 milliliters in here, not very much. And cover this up. And whenever you're working with something that could cause a spark, it's a good idea to get rid of the giant containers of solvent before you turn anything on. One of my rules when playing with fire, which I do quite often play with fire, is don't have flammable liquids around. Flammable solids, no problem generally, but flammable liquids where you can actually, if they catch on fire, you can then knock them over, or you can knock them over and they like spill into something that catches them on fire. Flammable liquids are just a whole nother level of dangerous compared to solids. My mom did work at one point in an emergency room, and flammable liquids, people putting gasoline onto a campfire, stuff like that. Don't do that stuff. That is how you get serious injuries. All right, we need some foil. Or maybe I don't need to use foil. Maybe I can just let's use here, we'll put foil on the outside of this steel container here. There we go. That's a good upright container for spraying my liquid on here. And I'm really just hoping that it's the right voltage, right amount of current to be able to actually do this electrospinning technique. All right, so I will tape one of my leads onto this can. Right onto the foil here, or right under it maybe. No, on top is good. Let's tie this off so it doesn't go anywhere. There we go. All right, get rid of this container of solvent. All right. Now we'll tape the other lead onto this needle. And I read I didn't do a lot of reading on this technique yet, but I read one thing that said, one paper that reported that needle diameter, actually I should have remembered that when I was wondering what size diameter needle to use. One paper suggested that needle diameter has zero influence on the final size, the final diameter of the threads, because you're not counting on the diameter of the needle to make the threads. You're counting on that electrical charge to drive the liquid stream apart, and in that way you end up with a whole variety of much smaller threads. Let's put down a piece of paper towel here in case this is messy. And I got a fire extinguisher down here ready to go. When I turn this power supply on, attached to a needle full of acetone, that might be exciting. Let me get my. All right. I have a power switch on the side of this. Is it off or on? It is off. Theoretically. Okay, it is on. Can I hear it? Yep, it's on. Good. Hopefully this doesn't disrupt the video signal or anything using a high voltage source. Let's see if I can get this to split into threads. Uh-oh. Needle clogged. Oh, there it goes. Big mess. It is not splitting into threads that I can see. It is splattering against the... I'm just risking a fire, just spraying acetone wildly like that. All right. either I need to use a smaller needle so the flow rate is less, or I need to, or it's something with the viscosity, or I need to actually get a variable voltage power supply. Yeah, so I am using blunt tip needles, so that should be correct. I have one very fine thread is coming out of this. Maybe let me clean the needle tip a little bit, because it was coated in acrylic just then, so it that might be insulating it, preventing it from spreading. Set that down and turn this. Ouch. Fortunately, high voltage DC like this is not terribly dangerous as far as electrical shock goes. Let me just go slower. It's definitely getting, so I'm definitely getting some attraction here. The drops are definitely being attracted to the foil. I need to get you guys closer so you can actually see what's going on. I don't think that this is not working for creating threads, though. Yeah, I'm thinking that this power supply is just inadequate for the task. Let's unplug this. Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of sad. That did not work. I guess you don't get all your equipment for free from stuff you find in your basement. 10 kilovolt is the usual start. Yeah, saw that wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I think that this power supply, just judging by the size of sparks it makes, is only about 1 kilovolt. It should be much more than that. I don't know why it's so low. Actually, part of the problem might be that my my leads, I'm not using high voltage leads on this thing. This is just like an old white extension cord. And part of the problem, when I've noticed using making high voltage projects before, is that when you use something that has the wires that are paired together like this, the two wires coming, stuck to each other in the same cord. When you're dealing with high voltage, you actually get a lot of electrical losses that just passes right through that insulation. And so the power supply might be a lot more powerful down at this end. So actually, the project that I used, or the project that I made this thing for, didn't work all that well either. So I don't really need this super long cable anymore. Maybe I'll just snip this shorter. Maybe that'll be the quick fix to see if I can get this working on the stream. Let's do that. So I still need enough length to get it over to the can over here. Okay, we will call this positive still, this negative. Let's strip these guys. Yeah, so anyway, my next video, I think, is going to be whether or not this particular method works. I think what we'll be doing next is more radiative cooling fabric, if I can get other methods working. Which I think I'll be able to get a cotton candy machine method working in one way or the other, or else use an air gun of some kind to spray the acrylic out into a heated air stream and get fibers that way. And if I can do that, I should at least be able to make some kind of matted fiber, probably in the form of like a felt, in order to test the radiative cooling capability of this particular mixture in a fabric form. So there is this was previously transparent, now it's brilliant white, You can see it did not come out as a fiber. It just came out as a straight a straight mat of liquid there that cemented itself to this foil. But we'll see if we can correct that. These streams are probably going to get more and more casual as time goes on. I'm fighting the temptation to make this kind of a more professional, I don't know, feeling like trying to keep you guys constantly entertained, but at the same time, I'm trying also to actually get stuff done here, and I think that that's what you guys really care about anyway. But sometimes getting stuff done means me not having much to say for a while and just kind of quietly wrapping wires around needles. Here, let's suck up a little more acrylic before I go any further. If I don't get this working, I definitely will have to reach out to Riley's lab and see how. I think I know what power supply Riley used in that video because I've seen them on eBay, but they're a little bit more expensive than I really wanted to spend. They were maybe over $100 at least, which $100 is kind of my cutoff for buying stuff on eBay that I'm not sure whether it's going to work or not. So it's good to see someone else having success with this method before I make the leap buying some really cheap electronics that's going to take 6 months to ship to me. All right, let's plug this back in, see if we get a result. We on? Oh yeah. No fiber formation. I hear discharge. Maybe I just hear the normal electronic hum. I thought maybe I was getting some arcing inside the box, but I don't think so. Well, shoot, this might not be the best power supply to use for this. Let's test if this solution is working anyway. See if this is working for the light scattering adequately. I found that a lighter, Bic lighter, is made out of the perfect plastic to. It's not affected at all by acetone, and then so you can test a little bit of this acrylic mixture on the plastic of a lighter and let it dry, and it just peels right off when you're done. So it's a good testing surface. So I'm just going to let that dry there. I put a little of this mixture on, and that's actually on a series of lighters is how I tested this acrylic mixture initially to come up with something that has the right amount of brightness. Turn off the fan here. Well, shoot, that's too bad. All right, well, I know that electrospinning works. I've seen it on Riley's lab. I think I will just have to contact him and see if he can run some samples for me through his setup. And meanwhile, I will focus more on some other methods that I think would be more appropriate for clothing anyway. I was looking into various ways that threads were spun from, I think DuPont might have been the first company, or maybe to make acrylic thread in the 60s. I'm not super excited about using acrylic as going back to acrylic fibers for clothing. That's how you get a lot of microplastics and stuff like that is from clothing, and acrylic is no exception to that. It's not the worst plastic you could use, but it's not the best environmentally. And so I'm not super excited about using acrylic for clothing and a new type of clothing technology. But I figure if I can get this working with a plastic of this, if I can get the method working with acrylic, then I will be able to branch out, and by knowing the techniques to use with acrylic, I'll be able to transfer those to several other types of plastic. There's one paper that I read about. Oh, did I try to reverse the leads? I did not. I did not try to reverse the leads. You're right. I should try that. I should probably try that before I get before we quit here, huh? I should try to reverse the leads. That makes a lot of sense. I'll wait to plug this back in though. Anyway, I read one paper about radiative cooling clothing that used a really niche plastic that is used in a lot of scientific research that I don't see used basically anywhere outside of like scientific papers. It's some fluorinated something or other that's really high corrosion resistance and good infrared emissive properties. But in order to purchase that plastic, you like need a Sigma Aldrich account or something. And you basically can't find it any other way because it's such a unusual material. However, that same plastic that I saw this paper making radiative sky cooling fabric with is the plastic that a paper initially inspired me. The paper that initially inspired this liquid mixture that I've been using for my sky cooling coatings made a mixture like this from that very niche fluorinated plastic. And I realized I could replicate its properties with cheap acrylic from the hardware store. And so there's a few other methods that I'd like to try that I've seen in papers using really hard to find plastics and see if I can replicate the results with more common ones like acrylic. And when acrylic works, then I can move on to more like, I don't know, bioplastics, stuff like that. Chitin or chitin, whatever that stuff is. What do you call the, what is it, chitin or chitin? It's like the, not the stuff your fingernails are made out. Is it the stuff your fingernails are made out of? I don't know. There's some bioplastics that are really good at longevity, but they're still biodegradable in a reasonable amount of time, and they're non-toxic. And so it'd be cool to make some radiative cooling stuff out of plastics like that. The other one is milk protein. Milk protein is a good option for a lot of. There's a lot of bioplastics that are just straight up milk protein. That's all they are, with a little bit of processing. And people also use that for conveniently, like some of the most ancient paints in the world use milk as a binder, and so we could use that both for the binder for a paint, or we can like make a milk-based paint and try to apply radiative cooling coating technology to it once we figure out how to do it properly. Here's my lighter with the swath of radiative cooling paint, the acrylic on there. Since it's bright white, you can tell I added an adequate amount of water, and that should work pretty well for radiative sky cooling. So apparently I got the mixture pretty close to accurate, and then I can just scrape that off the lighter with my fingernail. All right. How do I want to do this? I don't really want to breathe more acrylic. I guess I need to turn the fan back on, so excuse me for a second while I redo this and turn the ventilation on. Oh, I work so hectically, always tripping on cords. I don't know if I said so on a previous live stream, but I use this workshop for like car repair, woodworking, like all kinds of random non-video related projects, and it's just a mess. Every time I do a project, I destroy this workshop. You can see I have like loppers and like shears and stuff on the wall for like trimming bushes in the yard. This is not a not a high-tech facility. All right, I have the leads reversed. Power is on. So we are trying the reverse polarity now. Interestingly, it is not. Huh. That's interesting. It's not flying out of the syringe like it did before. Is it because it's clogging, or is it? That's strange. It's not. It's not shooting out of the syringe toward the container. Why is that? Whoa. Okay. That's weird. You would think that reversing the polarity between the syringe and the can would not really make that much of a difference. It still should be opposite polarity and it should attract, but that just dribbled out and it did not fly toward the container. I wonder. Okay, power supply is off. I'm going to reverse these leads again. I wonder if one of these really does not, it's not acting so much like a circuit. Maybe it's acting more like, you know, a hot lead and a ground. Maybe we actually need a, no, it's not a connection issue, I don't think. No, definitely not a connection issue. I've got metal on metal in both places. Right? I think, yeah, let me try again. I just reversed the polarity. Whoa, yeah. Yeah, night and day. Let me switch back again, one more time. Let's see what's up. I need to refill the acrylic here. All right, let's try this again. This is back to the negative lead being on the syringe. Yeah, it's like dribbling out. Same setup. Let me reverse polarity again. Yeah, suddenly it's flying toward the container. That's really weird. Why would it do that? Do I need to have like ground this can or something? That's strange. I don't know if one lead is at ground. I don't know if lead is at, yeah. Yeah, chitin. That's right. Yeah, I was thinking of chitin. Yeah. How big? Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with this to make this shoot out of the syringe. Ouch! Zap. I'm not sure why this is flying out in one polarity and not the other. I did not characterize the size of the droplets of water that deposited in the paint. That seems to depend on the thickness. So, well, I partially scraped off the lighter, so you can't really tell. But when you deposit this coating over like when you do it over a surface like this and you kind of like brush it starting from one side and then going to the other, it tends to be thicker on one side than the other side. And you can tell that the droplet size in the paint is a little bit dependent on the thickness of the layer. And possibly it depends on how much water you actually add to this mixture, how big those droplets will be in there. Yeah, there's so much that could affect that, because another thing would be the speed at which the acetone evaporates. If the acetone evaporates super fast, then it's going to prevent water from migrating and pooling together in larger droplets in the coating. So if the acetone evaporates super fast, you might have nano-size air pockets. If it evaporates slowly, you might have air pockets large enough that you could even see them. It's hard to say for sure. I'm gonna try just not grounding that, but just setting it on a bigger piece of metal. I don't know if that'll do anything, but I'm not sure if that's even a great connection, but we'll see. It might charge it up a little more, like in a capacitative way or something. Yeah, I don't know. It's not really working. I'm getting some stringing out of the syringe, like that's clinging to the tip. I'm getting like little fibers stuck to the end, but overall, you know what some of the issue might be? It might be that it's not drying fast enough in air. The initial observation of one of you, Fresh maybe, asked about how the acetone evaporates in air when you're doing this, and maybe the answer is it doesn't, unless you use a heated air stream or something. Yeah, okay. Well, that was uneventful. Shoot. I think I'm going to have to order a cotton candy machine. What mixture did Riley use? He did use an acetone-based mixture of plastic of some kind, but I forget what exact plastic he was using. I know that he was using acetone base, and so that might be part of what I reach out to him to discuss is what mixture he used of which plastic. And I don't want to use exactly that same plastic, probably. Although whatever he used, he was testing the manufacturer of a heart valve out of like these nanofiber mats, and so whatever plastic he was using is definitely biocompatible. Or at least the final plastic that he would use at the end for the end goal of this project would have to be biocompatible to be a heart valve. So maybe that would be an option to play around with for radiative cooling, especially if it's acetone soluble. That might mean that I could use the exact same method of adding water into the mixture to get that snow scattering effect. Scattering light with those air voids. Yeah, so I have a couple other methods to try. I reached out to one company that was when I searched for home plastic fiber making on YouTube, something like that. I came up with one of the first search results was a team of people that met up in college, and they converted a cotton candy machine to shoved it onto the end of an injection molder and use it to spin fibers out of polypropylene, like plastic soda bottles and stuff, polypropylene and PET plastics. And then they wanted to use this as like an easy way for especially like remote poor villages and stuff to have a means of making an income turning trash like plastic bottles into fiber insulation. And so I reached out to them. I don't know if they'll provide me with a machine or anything to test what I want to do. And I think that might be a little bit of overkill because they're set up for like wanting their machines make like industrial quantities of fiber. I really just want, you know, a bowl full like this of fiber that I can press into a little mat and test and see if we get radiative cooling effects, and then worry about making it in large quantity. But I'd really love for my next video about radiative cooling to yield a successful result. I've had one video between my last successful attempt. My previous radiative cooling fabric video did not end in success, and I would rather have success this time, which is why I'm starting with a mixture that I've already been successful with, and we'll see if we can actually turn that into fiber through one method or another. One paper that someone sent me recently, you might have been a patron, whoever sent me this. Are you watching? I don't know. Sent me a paper about another group of people that made a radiative cooling fabric, and the way that they did it is they took two different kinds of plastic. One was that fluorinated whatever it was, and something else that's not entirely compatible to mix. So you have two incompatible plastics. You grind them together really finely in like a ball mill into a super fine, super well mixed powder, and then you melt them and make fibers out of that melt. And because the two plastics don't really like to mix, when you extrude them and blow them into fibers, the two plastics separate on a microscopic level, and you end up with air voids in them. And so it ends up being the same sort of effect as the acrylic mixture that we've been playing with here, where you get a bunch of like microscopic air voids that scatter the light. So it's like this, basically the same effect of those air voids, just with a different method. The benefit to doing that is that by using two incompatible plastics and just trying to melt them together, you don't actually need to use any solvent. This process that we're doing here, in the methods that I've used so far, it's pretty wasteful because you have all this solvent to dissolve the plastic, and that solvent doesn't even end up contributing to your final coating in any way. It just evaporates off. So it's just wasted, basically. There's ways around that if you were to use solvent-based methods in an industrial process, because you can actually like recondensate that solvent. You can have all this whole process happening in a closed system, and you're using acetone to dissolve your plastic, then you're painting it onto something, and then you're drying it in a closed system where the solvent recondensates somewhere else and can go back into the beginning of the loop to redissolve more plastic. So there's ways that you can do that in a sustainable way, but for a smaller scale production setup, it's much better to not have to use solvent at all. That would save a lot of expense if you can just melt two plastics together. So I've got a lot of things that I could experiment with in that respect. No, Viator. I did not see any sort of cone coming off of the needle, and I think that the reason there is I don't have enough output from this. Probably not enough volts delivered by this setup here. It's non-adjustable, and I don't think. Let me see actually if there is anything on the inside that suggests what the voltage is, because I just tore this out of a 50-year-old furnace electro air filter system, so it's not like it was made for I don't know, it wasn't made for scientific purposes. So let's see what it says here. It says the input is 24 volts. The output, yeah, as far as I can tell, it doesn't say what the output voltage is. Or if it does, it's hidden behind where I can see in this box where I mounted it. Yeah, that's too bad. I'll have to pick up a variable voltage, high voltage power supply and see if we can get this process working. But really, this, as I mentioned, this really is not the method that I expected would be the final variation that I would use, because this makes nanofibers of of the plastic compound. And nanofibers, when they come together into like super evenly made mats of fibers, non-woven, just completely randomized mats of fibers, they can have extremely high strength for their thickness, just because of their nanoscale structure and flexibility that comes with that. It gives them really high strength. But it's like, who needs nanofiber clothing? I'm pretty happy with cotton, which is, you know, straight off the plant. It's definitely not nanofibers. And when you're talking about plastics and stuff, there's all kinds, you know, do you want your plastic really to start out in a nanoscale form already? You know, all just that much closer to microplastics? I don't know that we really need that. It'd be nice to have them in a little larger form factor to begin with, at least. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the cotton candy machine is probably a good idea. Maybe I can buy just the head of a cotton candy machine, just like the spinning part, seeing as how in the current state I'm just using solvents anyway. I don't need any heat in order to turn those into fibers. Although I guess a full cotton candy machine would be useful, because then I'd actually be able to play around with the like non-solvent based methods. Maybe I can feed powderized mixtures of plastics into a cotton candy machine and get some mixtures out that are, you know, that non-homogeneous mixture of plastics that I was talking about, that would then separate and create the air bubbles on the micro scale. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do next. I think I found some cotton candy machines that would be suitable. I definitely don't want to spend a lot of money on one, but I think that there's some knockoffs that usually when you buy cheap electronics, the downsides are the control systems. Often like the temperature regulation and stuff like that is really touchy. But fortunately, I have, for a kiln that I purchased, I have some extra voltage control stuff that I could probably use that would be, well, anyway, I shouldn't spend time trying to fix problems that I haven't encountered yet, at least on that equipment. But yeah, I don't think we have much success to report from this video so far. I've learned what not to do. It ended up, if you were here for the last live stream, we did a test of the total heat carrying capacity of my phase change material recipe, which will be in my next main channel video. And didn't end up with the results at the end of that stream, but I posted them later to Patreon in text form. I had to carry on off camera. And the results were excellent. For some reason, my PCM tested as having twice the heat carrying capacity as ice, and that's over a pretty large temperature range. So it's, anyway, I guess I don't need to rehash that whole that whole live stream, but yeah, I think you will enjoy my upcoming video on the main channel. I think it will be really useful. I ended up making some seat cushions that I've been sitting on out in the lawn, in my lawn chairs, enjoying myself in the hot weather here in Michigan right now on a PCM cooling seat cushion, which just lasts hours and hours and hours. And I think that those are going to be really useful for people, especially people that work in like delivery vans and stuff, where they have to be, you know, opening and closing their door all the time, and maybe their van doesn't have air conditioning to begin with. Having a cooling seat cushion that lasts just about through your entire work shift might be a lifesaver for people. Yeah, so pretty excited about that project, and it worked out well. And hopefully my editor that I've handed the footage off to now will do a good job, and we'll end up with videos a little bit more frequently, as I'm able to skip that whole process myself and jump right into the next thing, as we've been playing with here. Hope to have some news to report soon enough on the radiative cooling project. Some new technology on that front. I still have not tested my my coatings that are the commercial variety. These coatings, which I received from the commercial radiative cooling importer, These guys sent me a lot of different products, and I'm not really sure yet how I want to put these into a video. It would be kind of cool if I could like be a distributor for them or something and be able to sell these on my own website if these coatings work properly, if they work really nicely. I'm not sure if we'll end up doing that. I've been looking for a long time for a product that I would be able to like have to offer my viewers, which would be something unique that you can't really get very many other places. And cooling films or something of that nature would be really nice. I'm working on Senko Hanabi kits. I've talked about that, I think, in previous streams. That's a product that I've been trying to develop myself, but it's the ways that I've been going about it would basically require me to do all the manufacturing of every kit I sold, and that would be, you know, that would take some time away from my main videos. So I'm not sure where that stands right now. I have some Senko Hanabi kits developed. You know what? Maybe I'll show you. We'll have to do a live stream here coming up, just a Senko Hanabi live stream showing how to make these things, because a lot of stuff has not been in my has not made it into my full videos. So this, let me see if I actually have everything in here, if this is a complete kit or not. This is why my workshop's always a mess. I'm running around just tossing stuff on, tossing all kinds of random stuff on all the empty surfaces I can find in my whole shop. So what we have here, I did a short not that long ago, maybe 3 months ago, making stick type Senko Hanabi, which are a type of sparkler that is, I'm just assuming you all know what Senko Hanabi is if you've been following my channel for some time. It's a Japanese sparkler. Some of them are rolled out of paper, and so they'd be rolled out of strips of colored paper like this, and something like that would come in a kit, a whole stack of papers, and then we would have, let me see all this stuff I have in here. We would have some candles to light them. We would have containers of both dry and wet powder. That is the development with these stick type Senko Hanabi, is that you make them with a wet mixture of powder that you inject from a syringe onto the rice straw stem, and it ends up being a really easy way to make these sparklers. And it's the development that I've come up with, which I think allows Senko Hanabi to really be accessible as something that can go into a kit, and you don't need to be interested in learning a really difficult skill to master in order to make them. Because the paper type Senko Hanabi, they take like 1,000 sparklers to learn how to make them really well. I think with a kit that had enough papers in it to make 100 or 150 sparklers, you would definitely be able to make, you know, some that you'd be able to make plenty that work by the end of doing that. But you aren't going to be a master by any stretch of the imagination at the end of a stack of papers. So this type of sparkler, much easier to make, and that's what I'm really excited about. I will have to not call them sparklers. If I end up selling these, I will have to avoid that word very carefully, because I would be selling kits to make these sparking devices or whatever, the sparking chemical composition. The chemical mixture that I would be using would be my non-flammable mixture. Mixture of chemicals that is completely inert, completely non-flammable by all standards of testing. And they just happen to burn in very specific circumstances that would be in the final state of a finished sparkler. It's kind of really an interesting thing that it's even possible as, it's the world's first non-flammable firework. And I had a hand in that. I'm pretty happy with that being something that I can claim as taking part in. I'd love to be able to offer Senko Hanabi kits. Let me catch up on comments here. Cooling seat cushions sound really cool. Yes, they do. I'm not from Southern. Oh, you guys are asking each other stuff. Okay. All right. I think that wraps up this live stream. I was glad to be able to jump on a weekend. For once, my wife was busy with something over the weekend. Usually I would, this would be family time, and either that or my wife would have to go somewhere and I'd be watching our kid. So I have to, yeah, usually would not, for a number of reasons, would not be able to do a stream on the weekend. But this worked out, and I was able to give some heads up to when it was occurring. So from here, I think what will come next is moving some of these live streams over to the new channel and putting them public for the rest of my channel viewers. And then we will continue on with Patreon live streams on that channel once I hit 1,000 subscribers, the new crazy threshold that I guess YouTube enacted for some reason. Anyways. Yeah, the not a sparkler kits. Yeah, I wonder what I'm imagining. I have no idea what to expect in terms of sales for something like a Senko Hanabi kit. I think that, you know, I've been speaking with a consultant who specializes in fireworks legal issues in the United States, and trying to speak with him about, you know, can I sell these things, you know, without having to jump through all the hoops of selling ordinary fireworks, and not just selling them, but making them. That's like a whole nother set of regulation. And then if I want to sell kits, like, you know, what are all the things about that? Like all the rules about that. I've been talking to this guy, and he recommended that I, you know, take out a patent on this recipe, so that I could, you know, no one would start manufacturing them overseas and undercut all my prices and all that stuff. And I'm like, I don't think there's much of a market for these things outside of my channel viewers. I do not think that I am under threat of people jumping in and offering these things to a general market and robbing me of success in trying to sell them. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I have no idea what to expect for if I was able to offer a kit of these things. My ideal would be to be able to sell a Senko Hanabi kit that could make something like 200 sparklers, you know, not sparklers, for, gosh, I'd love to make it less than $40. I don't think that I can do that. At least if I'm making them myself. If I'm making the kits myself, I think they have to be like $70 for like a kit that can make 200 not sparklers. And I'm afraid that that's going to outprice a lot of people. But like, it's a handmade item. I have to hand cut the paper. I have to hand dye it. I have to, you know, everything has a price before it even gets to me. I have to buy all the materials, and I've learned a lot about the difficulties of manufacturing a product. Like, you just think about all the steps involved in that. You have all these items you want to sell, the paper and these stems and some containers full of powders and chemicals. And like, do you get a machine to fill all your containers? You need to talk to a company that makes packaging and like figure out, okay, measure all the things that are going to go into the container. Are you sure that's exactly the size they're going to be in the final product? How are you going to keep them from bouncing around? Is this going to be, you know, internal packaging? Are you going to have another box outside? It's complicated stuff. I need to get, like, I don't know. I'm hoping that having a video editor on board will take some work off of my hands, and maybe I'll be able to make a little bit more income off of my videos to have some spare to be able to spend on hiring consultants for these side projects, selling kits like this, because I don't think I can handle this stuff all by myself. But yeah, I'm excited about the Senko Hanabi kits if I can eventually get there. That's kind of a thing that I think might be a long-term dream. But that's what Senko Hanabi has been for me for the last 15 years or so. I learned about these sparklers 15 or more years ago. It took me about 12 years after learning about them to actually learn how to make them right from a Japanese master craftsman. And since then, we've made even more developments with the non-flammable mixtures and yeah, the stick type Senko Hanabi. I've figured out how to make these things without requiring specially made rice straw, because in Japan they actually have to, the company that manufactures Senko Hanabi, one of only 2 left in the whole world, they actually plant their own rice, their own fields of rice specifically for the straw, because the straw is needs to be so like specially grown, and it used to be common all over Japan, and now it's not anymore. So they have to grow their own straw just to make these original sparklers. I've figured out how to get around that to a certain extent for my variation, but yeah, there's still a lot of hurdles to jump over for these kits. Okay. All right. All right, everybody. Yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me again on this live stream. My wife is probably on her way home by now, so I better get back into the house and clean up before she shows up, and I can enjoy a little bit more time together before getting back to work next week. So thank you, everybody, for being with me here. I guess I'll catch you next time.
Bye.